Someone's going to go for two and get it at some point.
It's 1:42 in the morning.
Yeah, that's all right. Number one. Shocker. Iron.
Man, give me the Trojans.
There we go. Welcome into Overtime, presented by Perfection One. My name is John Bruce, along with Shayne Combs. Welcome to episode 78 of the Southern Ohio Sports Authority's flagship podcast show. I drilled it that time. Nailed it.
You did.
That's the best I've done. Yeah. So maybe by episode 100, it'll be like I won't have to celebrate that I hit it. So we've had a pretty busy week this week. Shayne had a really busy week all over our live streams. What was it? Four volleyball matches and a football game within 4 days.
Well, we did. Yeah, I mean, we started Wednesday night, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Hats off to HSA and some of the local ADs for making that happen. Got Southwestern Valley volleyball Wednesday night, then Thursday night over at Logan had the double header. We'll talk about that incredible volleyball. And then Carson and I were Friday night playoff football. Had an impressive victory from Zane Trace, and then you and I were back together yesterday in Logan. So yeah, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Here we are in the studio Sunday. I know, and again, you talk about busy weeks. I know you've been all over the place and inside and out.
Yes,
braving some of the elements. So no, it's
Wednesday was something.
The SOSA team's been hard at it here as the postseason has been in full force, and that's what makes it so fun in terms of getting out and covering all the kids and the programs and the sports.
It's been a great time. We are starting to wrap up the fall season. We'll have this week's episode, and next week will be the end of our fall episodes of Overtime. So episode 79 will end the fall, and then we're going to have like a whole bunch of week off until we get to basketball. It's going to be about a week off, maybe two. We'll see. We may do a preview show. We may just jump into it with the games as they start. But this is going to be a good way to wrap up. We're going to wrap up cross country today. We're going to wrap up volleyball today. Almost like we thought maybe we were going to wrap up soccer, but we had a big win earlier today. Taping this on Sunday, had a big win on Sunday. So I'll talk about that in a little bit. We will talk about week 12 football. We'll talk about week 11 also, but we'll talk about week 12 coming up. And then next week we'll preview week 13. And then, you'll be able to find any of that information on sosaohio.com or any of our other socials as well. So as always, if you like what we do, give us a subscribe, enable notifications so you know exactly when the videos go up. A lot of the interviews go on. It's great to watch those there if you don't see them on Facebook or Twitter. I guess some of them get on Instagram. I don't know where all they I don't know where all they go. They go out to a lot of different places because we want to celebrate as many of these young athletes as possible. Speaking of celebrating a lot of these young athletes, one of these we got a couple things that we're going to hit on today. One is going to be records. The other one's going to be highlighting some seniors. Let's start with records. So records and reporting them. We had an outstanding individual and team effort on Thursday night. Adina's Katie Burns had 43 kills in their win over Union Local, which I think you're going to talk about a little bit more also, but just outstanding. So I get on, like during the match, I get on the OHSA website, can't find any evidence of an SVC player with more. And so we had this discussion. We're trying to figure it out. Went down, asked Laura Smith after. It was kind of come to the conclusion that the Adina record was like 41 around there. Or the Adina record was, I think, like 37 or 38. Either way, that was an Adina record. And since there was no other things posted anywhere, we felt pretty safe about it. The next day, another media outlet goes out and checks, and they find current Huntington girls coach, Jackie Kello, had 41 in a match, which was deemed the SVC record. So we put it out there, SVC record. Well, it turns out that there was a player, current Waverly coach, Ricky McGill, had 47 in a match. But the record wasn't reported anywhere to the state. So that's, obviously, we go back, we take down like where we said it was an SEC record and it goes to an Adina record. But it's so important to report these records. That way, For me, when I look at it, we want to celebrate when a kid breaks a record, but we also want to celebrate the person whose record was broken at the same time. And if we can't find evidence of it anywhere, we're going to celebrate the current player. So it's so important to report it to the OSSA because they'll put it up that day if it's reported properly. So for me, that's why I feel like it's important. But for you, Shane, as someone who really gets into the history stuff as well, why is it important to report this stuff?
Well, I think just the accuracy. I think it's just getting it right. And look, we live in a different time now with technology and stat keeping, and stats are a little bit more um, instant. I would say stats are probably in most cases more accurate than they've ever been
Mm,
because of film and multiple resources. The other night, I know we were 2 or 3 of us up there in the
right.
media part saying, "Hey, is that what you yeah, that's what I got," and then there was even, again, you wanna get it right, so I know that there was one scoring decision, you know, hey, and I even told you, I said,
Yeah.
"Hey, go down and ask the great Mike Smith." I said,
Yeah.
He's got it right." And he got it, we checked it out, we got it.
Yeah.
So, you're just trying to have it right, I guess is the right thing. As far as reporting them, I love what you said there because the coach in me, obviously, the most important thing is the team and winning and all those
Mhm.
different things. But you also love kids and they work hard and having individual accomplishments and individual records to me is a highlight of your team. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Like I think if Katie Burns was sitting here right now, she'd be the first to tell you, man, I have some incredible passers in the back row. I have setters that then put the ball in a window for me to attack. I have incredible coaches who, from set to set, they're telling me, hey, this tip's open, this side's open. I've got teammates calling it in the back. I've got a team that's willing to go to me over and over and
Mhm.
over, and they celebrate my success with me. And that's what made their team really that was part of what
Yeah.
made their team really, really good. I feel like that's what she would tell you. Um, so I think in all of those things, there's still such a team, you know, celebration
Mhm.
involved in that. So you just want to have it right. You just want to be accurate. And then the other part you said that jumped out at me is when a record goes down, or when we say this team has done this for the first time since this team, I think it does celebrate the previous.
Mhm.
The cliche is records are made to be broken.
Mhm.
Well, there's a lot of truth to that. And what happens is when you say this person is now the all-time assist leader, this person is the all-time scoring leader, this person's the all-time kills leader, passing so and
Mhm.
so, it kind of goes back and reminds you, oh yeah, man, she was really good.
Yeah.
Oh, that team was real. Hey, this school hasn't done this since 2012. Oh, yeah, 2012 team was really good. And
Mhm.
it kind of keeps them a part
Yeah.
of the tradition that goes. Now, maybe you and I are just nerds. Maybe not everybody looks at it like that. But like, I do think there's something to be said for that goes. So it is. It's important just to try to be accurate, try to do it the right way. At the end of the day, they are stats, they are numbers, and again, you always wanna keep the most important thing the most important thing,
Mhm.
but I've never had a problem. I think stats, when done correctly, volleyball is a great
Mhm.
example of how the digs, the assists, the kills, the aces, all are ways of highlighting how kids help their team do the most important thing.
Mhm. Yeah, because typically a record like that, it doesn't come in a loss. It comes with the team, and it's especially volleyball, you have to have the entire team to even score a point. Now, I guess maybe you can get aces, but I mean, to get a kill, you probably have to have a good pass leading to a good set. So you have a minimum of 2 people involved there. And then, like, let's say it comes off of a tip block. Like, you could have so many different players involved in a single point, and that's how you can really celebrate the team in that area. So, important to, you know, report these stats anyway. OHSA does a great job of record keeping in that way. Uh, there's there's different people that in different sports do a really good job. Now, some sports like we know one that we're both really close to. Teacher tossed out some records without understanding what they were because it wasn't maybe properly marked. So then there was like one really good program who doesn't have like 30 years worth of stats that are outside of the newspaper. So, and especially now with how the newspapers are, thankfully that that next morning you were able to find an old like screen grab or clip of something of that Derek Webb had put out when he worked at the Chillicothe Gazette, celebrating Ricky McGill. So we were able to kind of acknowledge it early on in the day and kind of realize, okay, well, it's you know,
Yeah, and it was, you know, remember when we were there, I even whispered to you on the air, I whispered to you, Ricky
mhm.
McGill, and you had said Jackie, so I knew, well, I'm getting old, maybe it's the other way around with the Huntington kids or whatever, and, so we just went on with it. Again, that wasn't the most important thing at that
Yeah,
time. At that important time, it was that Adina was in the middle of having a great run to the Elite Eight, and this young lady was putting on a performance that's everything too. Remember you talked about the Eastern football players a couple weeks
mhm,
ago? Like, it wasn't like they were just adding it on to break a record. They
right,
needed all the points
right,
because their defense gave up like 50 some.
right,
Like, they needed the 10
hmm
touchdowns. In this case, it was the same way. This was in the regional semifinal, and they needed every single
hmm
point because they were in a four-set dogfight to try to get back to the Elite Eight. That's what makes it fun too,
right.
because when these types of things happen on these types of stages, um, to go. Bye Bye always talks about records. Like, I would love to know how many times there's been 43 kills from a regional tournament on.
Well,
That's a phenomenal number.
that's one of the things I like about the OHSA is they put the dates on it. So sometimes you can
That's a
tell.
good point. Yeah.
I think it was Paige Penrod from Logan Up is
Uh-huh.
all over that,
Uh-huh.
and it was the year they went to the Final
That's
Four,
right.
and like you see the dates just are like late October on almost all of them. So it's like, man, that was
Yeah.
they were going with her, and that's one of the reasons why they got there. And
Mhm.
um, that's one of the things you can do by going back and looking at. So the last thing I want to hit on this is whose duty is it to report these? Obviously, not all we know this from media, not all coaches like to have their numbers out there. So, if if a coach doesn't report it, who else could report it? I know there's a lot of different ways that OHSA says it, but, um, you know, whose duty is it to report it to make sure we can celebrate these players the way they deserve to?
Man, that's a loaded question. Because the reason I say that, John, is a lot of athletic departments go about it a little bit differently. I think if I go back to the beginning of my career, the athletic director's job description looked a lot different than it is now, if I'm being
Mhm,
honest. And I won't even go down all that. That's a whole nother discussion for another day. But I say that to say this: there has to be a connection between a coach's responsibility to report the stats at minimum to an athletic director or an athletic department for archiving purposes, because not every school is going to have the 20, 30, 40-year head coach, right? It's
mhm,
going to be the more realistic thing, unfortunately, is probably the four head coaches in 10 years,
mhm,
at least 4 or 5 over 20 years.
mhm,
And you need to be able, as you said earlier, you need to be able to have those. Then from that standpoint, you've got to have a recognition in sports to where, oh, wait a minute, man, that's the type of number that, and you got to start asking questions and you got to get
mhm,
them reported. At the end of the day, you just owe it to your kid and you owe it to your program. I mean,
yeah,
what a great honor when you're looking through those things. That's a great honor to
mhm,
have your name on some of those lists that we were looking down through
mhm,
at the highest level of our state in that sport. Um, so I think what happens, a lot of coaches, they don't know that depth of their job description. I mean, when young coaches take over programs today, I think they realize, okay, I'm supposed to run the program, and kids need to behave, conduct themselves the right way. We need to play hard. And the expectation is to win.
mhm,
Okay, I think they could probably rattle off some of those things for you. I think what they probably don't know is how much of we live in a time of I have to make sure that I am properly. Um, we just talked about NIL. This is only going to
Yeah.
grow. Is the reason I say that. We live in a time where you're going to have to accurately be prepared to promote your kids, and be it through the coach knowing, through the athletic director mentoring the younger coach, being aware of the athletic program. I'd say it's a combination of coach and athletic director, being aware of those things year in, year out, to where you recognize, because at the end of the year, when you start talking about all district, you start talking about all Ohio, all of those things, you're aware of what the stats
Mhm.
are right there. And then I think you really need to have that overall IQ. But unfortunately, I don't know that every single athletic department would have that
Right.
in a sport like volleyball, in a sport like so. I mean, how many athletic directors would know even what a big number of softball strikeouts would
Right.
be? Do you see what I'm saying? I
Mhm.
mean, fair or not, I'm just saying that's a fair question. So it certainly has to come from a dynamic of the coach and athletic director, but that probably looks different at every school.
And then I just wanna make one last statement. This is kinda going off the rails a little bit on this, but whenever you're reporting numbers for all district, all state, coaches, please get them right. Like, just get them right because, like, I'll look at stuff at the end of the year. We'll just toss out baseball as maybe an example. I don't know why I'm saying this, but baseball puts out the stats that they're given when a person gets All Ohio. And then if I just glance at them, I'm like, that's not what they had. Why'd they have that? Why'd they have so many losses? They lose games throughout the season. Why is their ERA so high? They only gave up so many runs. It's like, well, that might be why a player isn't first team and ends up being honorable mention, things like that. So make sure we're getting the numbers correct because that can really impact some things throughout the season, recognition for kids, and I think that just kind of just goes to paying attention to what
I'll say
is
this too about coaching, though. You got me thinking about baseball, and this is a part late in my career that I just didn't adapt to. And I kind of knew I was coming to
Mhm.
the end of it. I shared that a couple of
Yeah.
weeks ago on here. Sometimes you start to see certain things pass you up, and you're like, I just don't know if that's for me.
Mhm.
Through my career, when I'm doing the paper and pencil, and I'm totaling up my book, and I'm doing my own
Mhm.
program, I had exact understanding of what the stat was, why it was the stat, what was the scoring decision. As time's gone on and technology gets involved, you
Mhm.
have different people putting it into computer, and the
Yep.
computer's figuring this up, and then we don't question technology, right? We don't
Mhm.
question it. It just comes out, it spits out the stat. Hey, hey, the media wants his batting average, what's he hitting?
Right.
And I'll be honest, the further I went in my career, I started to slowly but surely get disconnected from that. I think that happens a little bit with basketball
Mhm.
coaches, volleyball coaches, maybe even because you get the huddle assist and you get all
Yep.
these different things. Maybe they have someone who breaks down film for them,
Mhm.
which is more than understandable. But you see where I'm going with
Right.
that?
Yep.
Like it's just, as a head coach, you still have to be accountable for what you're putting out there. And then you really need a connection with your AD. If I was going to give a young coach any advice, connect with your AD at least on a professional level, to where he or she is someone that you can go to with questions, connections. Hey, I need to promote this. How do I do this? And you're going to be a lot better off for it.
Yes, 100%. So, one of the other things that we wanted to talk about on this week's episode was kind of spotlight some seniors. Um, some of them are coming to the end of their high school athletic career. Some are going to go on to play in college. Some are coming up to the next sport. But not everyone moves on to the next sport. Um, and, you know, we're not going to talk about these sports a lot after next week. So, this would be a good time to highlight some of these seniors, especially in those maybe not the football, but we can still talk about that a little bit as well. But um, who are some of the seniors that you've this year where you've really been able to get out and watch a variety of the Southeast District? Who are some of the seniors that have really stood out in your time of watching them so far this year?
Well, I want to be careful not to be repetitive here, because throughout my volleyball segment and our senior feed,
Mhm.
I'm going to break down some different seniors that I've really enjoyed as I go and talk about their teams being eliminated from the postseason. So again, you might want to make sure you check that out as well. But a lot of times in this segment, John, it's the groups of seniors that jump out at me. We were talking about a dean earlier. I'll talk
Mhm.
about them later, but like I think Derek between 90 and 17.
Yeah,
It's
that's
crazy.
yeah.
I mean, that's just insane. The Logan Elm seniors, I think there's 9 of them led by Claire King in
Mhm.
volleyball. And you think about what they've accomplished as a program, and then sometimes it's not even the very best players. Like remember how much I've talked about Kennedy Groff throughout the years.
Mhm.
Like uh, Circleville had a couple of these seniors as well, and I'll talk about them here in a little bit. But like it's not even the best player. Sometimes it's just players that jump out to me that impact winning. You know, I mean, they're
Mhm.
just like, "Hey, coach, what do you need me to do to win? That's what I'll do." And the coach in me sees that, and I just respect that so
Mhm.
much. So they may not stuff the stat sheet all the way to an all league, all district, all higher level. Maybe they do, but it's more about like being able to just go in and efficiently fundamentally do what the coach is asking. And I think that's really important. Uh, as I stretch out even more, there's some kids I have not actually got to watch do what they do with my own eyes,
Mhm.
but in following them, I want them to appreciate, or I want them to know that I appreciate them.
Mhm.
Think of Vanessa Conley there in
Right.
cross country. I have not had a chance to go out and watch her run a cross country race, but I find myself each weekend wondering, hey, how'd she do? How'd she do? And that's impressive to me because that
Mhm.
consistency is really good. Natalie Reagan, the setter of North Adam, 2,700 plus
Mhm.
assists, and a lot of the winning that they've done. Uh, Alyssa Stanley at Unioto
Mhm.
moving over to the libero, and that's a rotation that has a lot of moving parts. But that move at least stabilized setter libero, and I thought
Mhm.
made them a better volleyball team because of that part being
Right.
stable, even if they had a lot of other moving parts all around it. Um, Alexander volleyball, Mina Yedis. I think they had 6 seniors on that Alexander team. They won the TVC Ohio. That program's been on its way back.
Mhm.
That jumps out at me. And then I don't want to cheat some football. How about the Huntington football
Right.
seniors? I think I read on a website this week that what's the one that we love? Fantastic
Fantastic 50.
50. I think they reported that Huntington was a top 10 most improved
Mhm.
program in the state of Ohio this year.
Mhm.
How about that? So, I mean, that's 10 seniors, I think we announced when we had their Piketon Huntington
Yeah.
game last week. So, and then the last one I had, I'd love to get your comment on this before you go. Georgia Burkhart of New Lexington.
Mhm.
I know that's not our coverage area, although we had them the other
Yeah.
day. And here's why I say that. I think what happens in these post seasons is it's exposure.
Yeah.
So you go and you go and you go and you go and you finally run into you meet your match, right?
Right.
That's what happens. Is that's how tournament trails work. You
Mhm.
you you get here and then eventually, oh wow, they're good. But you watch that and you're like, oh wow. So like if you're a young setter watching that,
Yeah.
that's like, oh, okay, wait a minute, there's the level I got to get to. Like that's important too.
Mhm.
So I even appreciate that sometimes is like my wife and I, we go up to the state tournament volleyball every year, at least one of the days. And we just go up there and I mean, if you think about it in our area, SPC volleyball, we highlight it all the time. We do different things. And you go up there and you watch and you're like, oh, wow, okay.
Mhm.
You got to go to a different level. So I know that's kind of random and I didn't want to be repetitive. So I'll talk about a lot of other
Mhm.
seniors during the volleyball segment, but I just wanted to try to answer your question there with a variety of sports and a variety of people.
Well, and then I'll throw one out there. We're going to talk about it near the end of the episode. Um, but Sophia Szolosi
Yeah.
from Athens,
How
like,
about that?
yeah, wins her second straight state championship. Like I said, we'll talk about that more at the end. But she sets a course record and just the second place cut off like 30 seconds from her time from a year ahead and finished further behind
Yeah.
than she did
You're
because
like, what I got to do? Yeah.
yeah, so, that's one of those that, we wanna make sure that we highlight because she was outstanding
Yeah.
throughout, and, yeah, we'll talk about a lot of different seniors throughout this episode, I'll just jump kinda piggyback onto the Huntington, like an Isaac Taylor was just super fun to
Mhm.
watch, made so many big plays for them on both sides of the ball and really impacted the growth of that Huntington program
Sure.
that we're gonna look at as a program to really keep an eye on in the future, so, like, a Luke Gullion from
Yeah.
Piketon.
Good pick. Good
Yeah,
pick.
he
Yeah.
was, led a really nice group of seniors for Piketon, and then they just dealt with a ton of injuries. They dealt with a ton of injuries, and they still get to the 6 wins and finish the season with a win to really knock out Huntington from the playoffs. And he did it with his best game of the season, which
And
is you want to see kids go out with with some outstanding games.
imagine that healthy Piketon team with those guys back sneaking in at 11 or 12. That would have been a nightmare matchup for a certain 5 or 6, maybe
Mhm.
in week 11.
Oh, 100%. And then lastly, let's go Jake Brown with
Yeah,
Northwest.
another good pick.
1,000 rushing, 1,000 passing. It was like 30 touchdowns, 1
Yeah,
interception on the year, and no fumbles.
coach's dream.
Yeah, and it's just like that's why Northwest goes 7-3 and is on the was on the verge of making the playoffs. So you have all of these really impressive kids. You see them over the years. Brown did that as a sophomore, and then they didn't need him to do it as much as a junior. I know he had dealt with some injuries last year, but then he comes back out as a senior and just has another huge season. So a lot of really good kids all around the district, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more. But
Yeah.
now we're going to jump into football. So week 11, we had several um, outstanding games. We covered one that we thought was going to be a really good game, but it was a great showcase for St. Trey. So we're going to talk about that one. But first, this is a team we've talked about a lot. Circleville. Circleville hosted Philo. It turns out was the first ever home playoff game at all for Circleville. So you think of like Circleville, a good sized school.
Mm.
You know the program has not been very good lately, but maybe you didn't know how long it's been down. But Coach Jay Sherritt, his first year, Tigers get a home game based off of beating Bloom Carroll in week 10. They host Philo. They win 31-14 to win their first ever home playoff game and move on to week 12. So 8 wins in the first year for Coach Sherritt. Won a couple state championships in Pickerington in his time there. So obviously he can coach. But man, that thing has turned around maybe as fast as I've ever seen. And it's because of they've got some outstanding players, obviously, but Coach Sherritt does a great job. Ray Azell had 2 touchdowns in the game. I know Cole Dungesser had a really nice game for them. Hudson Phelan does a great job at QB for them. Just really impressive with what they've been able to do.
It shows you that if the entire group pulls in the same direction, if you make a great hire, put in great culture, great coaching, and then everybody buys in. There's, parents and kids aren't questioning. The boosters are on board. The band's on board. Everybody's on
Yeah.
board, and it can happen. We've said Circleville's a school that they're not lacking athletes. It's just
Mhm.
a matter of getting the athletes out and getting them excited about playing football,
Mhm.
and that's obviously happened in a hurry, and that's exciting for that school. When you said first ever home playoff win, that jumped out at me. But again, in those higher divisions, I think a lot of teams are figuring out, man, this is the real deal when you start to get into week
Mhm.
11 and week 12.
Yeah, it definitely makes things more difficult. But like you mentioned, the buying in. So I know state championships have, a certain
Yes,
way of
that helps.
helping people buy in, but we've seen local programs where some historically great coaches who have win percentages close to, 75, 80% go in programs and they don't buy in at all for whatever reason. And it can set back a program even if you have an outstanding coach come in. So you have to have a whole community of buying in. Now, maybe where Coach Sherritt was an alumni of Circleville, that may have been
Very good.
an extra way of helping get people to buy in. But we've seen local programs where people haven't bought in. So um, even better for that Circleville program to see like the buy-in that they've had.
It really is, and that's a good point that you make, because sometimes when I say make a great hire, there has to be that connection. Sometimes in the Southeast District, if you think about it, we have a lot of school districts where community matters.
Hmm.
And so sometimes making that great hire, that perfect hire, does include having that type of connection. And that's not to say you can't hire from the outside and then that person becomes embedded into your culture.
Hmm.
But sure. I mean, when you go to make a hire, having a connection to that school, that's certainly part of that buy-in that people are going to respond to.
Yeah, 100% makes a big impact. But speaking of a hire that really didn't know he was gonna be the hire and may not be the hire next year because he was in as an interim coach. Notre Dame ended up losing to Cedarville 41-37, what really looked like the game of the night. Now, we don't have a ton of info on the game. We know some of the scoring of it, but, Coach Bob Boldman and his staff, their previous coach steps away in July, so it's like, well, there's not much time. Quarterback gets hurt in week 1. They just had to keep moving pieces throughout, and they end up getting a home playoff game in, you know, in a year with all kinds of adversity. Now that's like an ultimate, buy-in situation of, it's a bad situation at that point. I believe they were down 34-16, but I know it was 34-22. They end up taking a 37-34 lead
Yeah,
late,
saw that.
but Cedarville ends up coming back and scoring very late in the game to get the win. Um, but man, that Notre Dame team, they had so much adversity that they are playing behind, and Luke Cassidy and and that group just did an outstanding job all season to really give the Titans an outstanding season at Spartan Stadium.
We did a piece a couple weeks ago here on overtime where we talked about small school defense,
Mhm,
and it's just so hard. I mean,
mm,
so it's just so hard to put together. And again, I thought Notre Dame maximized everything they could out of the year.
mhm,
They, like a lot of small school defenses, just had trouble stopping people throughout the
mhm,
year. And they weren't alone, right? I
yeah,
mean, that entire conference. I mean, goodness, the one week we were joking if they were playing defense with 8 down there.
yeah,
So like it's it's just part of it. But I just love the way you describe that because I love from start to finish how they stayed with it
mhm,
and they got the most out of it. And then daggone it, the other night I was following that the same way you were, and then they come up just a little bit short there at the end. But yeah, really, really incredible job of maximizing what they could out of that particular roster.
yeah. 8-3 season. They started off 7-0. They lose uh, pretty sizably to Eastern Pike, which most people did in week 8, and they lose to Sims Valley. Then they beat East, and then they finish with the loss to Cedarville. But really an outstanding season for the Titans. Just one of those teams that went 6-6 a year
Yeah.
ago. 8-4 the year before. So I think this is probably about where they were hoping and expecting to be anyway, record wise.
Well,
But
note wise, we had them. I think they had about 8 seniors.
mm,
Luke Cassidy, Ethan Kingery. I remember that night, Coleman Schaefer.
yes.
Really good player. Just again, kind of one of my
Mhm,
favorites throughout the year, just the way he played. So yeah, I mean, on the theme of seniors tonight, those are some of the ones that
mm.
jump out at me.
Yeah, so congratulations to Notre Dame on really an excellent season overall. Another game that we don't have a whole lot on would be Fairfield Union beating Heath 22-3. I mean that Fairfield Union team throughout the year has kind of grown and adjusted in different ways. So
Defending at a high level.
yeah, defending at a very high level. I mean, they beat Circleville 6-3 a couple weeks ago, then they beat John Marshall to get
I
into
thought
the playoffs.
Circleville beat them. Is that the game that was 6-3?
Yeah, I believe.
Nonetheless, they
Yeah.
they were the maybe I had that wrong. But my point was that's what jumped out at me
Mhm.
is the level they're defending at. I mean, Circleville just scored, what did we say, 31 points in a playoff game.
Yeah, they ended up winning that game 6-3 over Circleville. So
Okay.
they've won 4 in a row now, or 5 in a row,
Okay.
going
Okay.
back to a win over Liberty Union. Then they beat Circleville, beat Amanda Clear Creek 34-14. That one kind of stood out to me. I know Amanda was going through some adversity late in the
Yeah.
season as well, but still, after how Amanda had played throughout the year, so Fairfield Union they get a pick six from Colton Bora in that one. Dean Clark with a rushing touchdown in the first half. Heath had put up a lot of points throughout the year,
Mm.
and they just completely shut them down, 22-3. So, that's the second time they've given up 3 in the last few weeks. They had a shutout. When they lost to Bloom Carroll, their only loss since week 4, they lost 17-7. So that was just a game where they just kinda they couldn't move the ball offensively. But their losses, we've talked about them throughout the season. They lose to New Lexington, which is the 1 seed in
See,
yeah, top seed. They lose to Colonel Crawford, who was a 5 seed, but really good team, 10-1, 9-1, 10-1. You lose to Hamilton Township, who's 9-2. They won their first playoff game as well, so they're going to go play at Tri Valley. Then you lose to Bloom Carroll, 8-3, who won their first playoff game. So those are their four losses, all outstanding teams. And really, Hamilton Township was a four-score game, and then New Lexington was a three-score game. So outside of that, they're very
Yeah.
competitive. And due to that, I mean, they're going to go to New Lexington for the second time this season. They're going to go on the road there this week. Going to be tough because I mean that New Lexington seemed very good, but you know you have to like that you've seen them before, and you got a chance here in week 12.
I think you'd agree in all sports. If you can defend, you have a chance,
Yes.
right? Basketball, baseball, whatever. If you can defend, you feel like okay, we can go and put a game plan together and get ourselves late in the game with a chance.
Yes, 100%. So, congratulations to Fairfield Union. We hadn't talked about them a whole lot on the show. We discussed some of their record stuff,
Right.
but just really impressive with what they've been able to do. And then going to our SOSA streaming game of the week, that once again we thought was going to be a really really tight game. Man, Zane Trace, after the first drive where Valley moved the ball really well, Zane Trace goes a very quick three and out, and then Grady Stewart completely changes the game.
They do. On that first drive, you even had the fake punt in there, so
Mm,
Valley had a lot working in their favor. They moved the ball, and then they get the ball back. They were even after the Grady Stewart pick to go up 7-0. You felt like they were driving the ball a little bit
mhm.
again.
Yeah.
And at that point, you you felt like okay, they go down here. They were starting to march into field goal range, and then um, I compared it to our Unioto Zane trace with the roles flipped. You
Mhm.
felt like, heck, hold on, I'm watching a game and I feel like Valley has won on 95% of the snaps. And here Zane Trace is up 7-0, and Valley's still
Mhm.
trying to drive and get points on the board.
Right. It was just it the couple times they moved the ball, they got into some bad situations, almost forced into passing downs.
Yeah.
But they also sometimes maybe wasn't the greatest read, which kind of ends up in one play being blown up, that forces them into the long field goal, which gets blocked, and then Mason Hartley has the return. But it just felt like any opportunity that was there at all, Zane Trace just took advantage of it.
The difficulty of just dropping back and throwing the ball against Zane Trace without moving your quarterback or moving the teams that have had some success have been the ability to get the ball out quick or try to move the quarterback or maybe try a little double move, but knowing exactly where you're going with the ball. But it's hard to just drop back and just throw it to a perfect spot because they're so athletic in the secondary, and then those front four, they just do an incredible job of getting after you. So that caused a lot of problems. So when you come up on that drive at 7-0, they they were going to settle for the field goal. Even that third down play hurt the field goal
Yeah.
position even more, maybe even a chance to go for it. Then that's when Hartley started his unbelievable night. He comes
Yep.
through, he blocks it, he picks it up, takes it all the way back, and before you know it, it's 14-0. And then what does Valley do? Again, they
Move
move
the
the
ball.
football, and it's
Mm,
just like you're watching it, and you're like, my stat sheet tells me this, number of first downs tell me this, yardage tells me this, and the scoreboard tells me the other thing.
mhm,
And then they go down and see, even then, I felt like 14-3 wouldn't have been the end of the world for Valley at
mhm,
home. Like I felt like if they could come away with points there, I understood why they wanted to try to push the ball
mhm.
to the end zone. I do. And then that's when that particular one was Higgins.
Higgins. Yep. Jaden
And he
Higgins.
he takes off basically on a 100-yard dash, and 60, 70 yards into it, I thought for sure he was gone. And Anthony Aaron, the outstanding effort, he runs him down at an angle, had an angle on him, and it could have been the hustle play of the night. I mean, it
Mhm.
was anyway because you never know what's going to
Right.
happen. But then you end up having the McCullough to Hartley touchdown on the real nice touch over the top and the good footwork from Hartley in the back of the end zone. Missed the PAT that time. That's how we got 20-0
Yeah.
half. But I thought if they could have held, there was only 16 seconds
Mhm,
remaining. I thought that if they could have held there, that hustle play from Aaron could have mattered. So
mhm.
you go from Could it be 14-3? Could it be 14-7? No. Okay, can they still keep it 14-0? No, it's 20-0, and then you go to the locker room and you just feel defeated.
It's one of those just massive swings. So Jaden Higgins makes the great read, but then as you mentioned, Anthony Aaron with one of the plays of the night, and it went for naught because something that you've talked about throughout the entire year was that Zane Trace has the ability to
Throw.
throw the ball.
Sure.
They just haven't had to do it. And then, Gunnar McCall throws a perfect pass where only Mason Hartley can get to it. He makes just a spectacular play. And really, they get the ball to start the second half,
Yeah.
and then Higgins really puts it away.
He does. He breaks the line of scrimmage and goes, I want to say 67 yards on that one. And John, like going back to Aaron, because it's the way the whole night worked.
Mhm.
I felt like in calling the game with Carson that the Zane Trace scouting report had Anthony Aaron at the top. So I think that's where Conaway got loose a little bit on some quarterback runs. They even lost McNeil in formation a couple times. But you could tell they came and said, look, this young man's not going to beat us. And as a result, it just really made it difficult for them to ever establish the run. And that's what I loved about that play. Here's a young man that was getting keyed on, didn't have the first half that I'm sure he wanted to. It'd been really easy for him to quit on the play, and he didn't. He runs him down. But he gives Zane Trace credit because that's how you put teams away and playoff urgency type of games is when you do get an opportunity, you have to cash in because as soon as you don't, you let them back off the mat. We've seen that in some of our
Yeah.
volleyball matches, right? The 0-2 back to 3-2. In that case, boy, did McCall and Hartley deliver the knockout punch.
Oh yeah, and such a
And then obviously Higgins threw in another one just for fun.
yeah, and then Hudson Williams piled on as well with the pick six of
Well,
his
you
own.
get Valley to one
Yeah.
dimensional at that point against that secondary, and again the pass rush. I know there's I shouldn't
Blake
do this.
Brower,
Brower, Euler, Minor. I'm missing
yeah,
one, and I apologize to that young man, but like
and
up
Marshall,
front, what is it?
Marshall,
Might be
yeah,
because what they do again, what I'm saying there is they don't have to bring a fifth and sixth guy to get to the quarterback. Those guys are relentless.
yeah,
Well, then you have all these athletes just floating in the back, reading the eyes and doing some different things. So like a Columbus Academy is going to bring them far more speed than they've seen throughout the year in this league schedule. But that's the one thing I think Zane Trace can kind of match up with is the athleticism at the skill kids, and at least in terms of trying to compete a little bit.
yeah. So it was just an outstanding performance by Zane Trace. So, one of the things that we've talked about each week, we go through the perfection one collision of the game. This week, it's going to go to Zane Trace's Hudson Williams as he flies through the line to make a big time stick in the Valley backfield. Just one of the several big time plays by the Pioneers defensively on Friday night. We could probably make this the interception of the game or the defensive play of the game in some way. But this one goes to Hudson Williams for his outstanding game and really outstanding season he's had throughout the year. And remember that you can find Perfection One in Pickaway, Pike, and Ross County. And then if you do have to meet them, you'll find out why they are highly recommended. So with we talk about Hudson Williams, you're going to see hopefully that thing that gets clipped and thrown out there this week. Mm, he's been outstanding for them for the last 2 seasons, but makes a big time play for them, pays off with the touchdown. But we'll talk more about Zane Trace throughout, as we'll talk a little bit for next week as well. But some of the seniors for that Valley group, you had Gabe McNeil, who's dealt with some injuries the last couple of years, but an outstanding player. Anthony Aaron, as you mentioned, just with that outstanding hustle play. Uh, Jalen Bender, just one of the better kickers in our area. Um, you had Nolan, man, the lineman. I was gonna say Crabtree because that's the coach,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's
I believe there was double digit seniors the other
mm,
night on that roster, and Carson was given some incredible numbers on how long it had been since they had done certain
mm,
things. It goes back to appreciating some of those teams
yeah,
and some different things, and that's what jumps out at me is a senior group who brings it along and continues to do all those things, and that's just important. And sometimes you're a part of something bigger than yourself, and it just it just does It does
Yeah.
that, you know what I mean? It leaves a mark on a program that's gonna matter. Like, if teams go on to be more successful than your team, I think people close to the program recognize that, like, "Oh, that 25 team was the foundation
Yeah.
of this, that
It's N
built this."
yeah, it's Nolan Barnett. That was yeah, so, one of the really outstanding linemen in the area as well. So, I mean, they had some outstanding seniors, but when you talk about going back, so it was 2015, they went 9-2, made a regional semifinal. The year before, they went 11-3, made it to the state semifinals. So, I mean, they had a great run, 2 regional finals a couple years before that. So they just had an outstanding run from 2011 to 2015. A couple years before that were very good. They didn't get in at 8-2, which is funny how loaded the playoffs used to be. Um, Going back to 2016, 1 win, 3, 4, 5, 4, 4, 3, 3, 3, and now 8. So they had not had a winning record since 2015, and this year's team puts together 8 wins, finishes second in the SOC, just an outstanding season. They had 9 wins as a program the 3 previous years. They get 8 this year. I know Coach Crabtree, as you mentioned, that's going to be the foundation for everything Valley does from here on
And
out.
I'm sure if talked to people closer to the valley, they'd even highlight some seniors from the past couple years.
Yes.
And then now these seniors, the mark they're going to leave is that foundation's been reestablished. And as you move forward here a little bit, it'll be interesting to see if they can build on it.
Mhm, and one of the things that I really impressed me with, like, a Valley and all the like a South Webster is they aren't afraid, they go play, they go straight ahead at the bigger division. Sometimes they're the smaller schools in that conference, and they just go right after them and really challenge themselves, which could impact some of those records, but, ultimately, it's gonna make you better overall, especially in those seasons where you have the really nice ones like they did in the mid-2010s, so, that was kind of our rundown of week 11. So now we're going to go through a little kind of a quick preview of week 12 in division. We're going to start at the bottom. So
Okay.
division 7 and then move our way up, I guess. I don't
Yep.
know. So
Yep.
division 7, region 28, Fort Recovery at 6-5 will be at Eastern Pike 10-0 in week 12. That crowd in Beaver needs to be big because that Fort Recovery team will have played in front of huge crowds all year coming from the MAC.
Yeah.
And, they weren't at the top of the MAC, but they were good enough to get in as the 12th seed. They win pretty handily last week on the road. So they're going to be a really tough matchup.
Won't be intimidated because of the level of football that they have seen.
Exactly. So they are, and if you look at Fantastic 50, they are a sizable favorite in that they won 34-8 over Cincinnati College Prep last week. They're a sizable favorite, but I think this Eastern Pike team is going to rise to the challenge. It's going to be a tough game anyway. But with Eric Manley, Boston Webb, Burrow Tomlinson, just outstanding line play that they have, I think that if they can get Jack Montgomery the ball in some interesting spots, it's going to give them a chance. They got to get off to a quick start because if you get behind that, those teams in the MAC have a way of just really grinding you out. Going to be the toughest game of the season for Eastern Pike. So one way or the other, at least they're going to get a big time challenge in week 12.
Well, I think you'd expect that when you're in
Mhm,
week 12, right?
mhm.
It's going to be the best team you've played probably to this point for a lot of teams at week 12. So, yeah, that's why you play. Certainly having it at home will help, but
Mhm.
and we know that they can score.
Yep, they can really they can really score it. So they will not be afraid if they get behind, but you just got to make sure you get some put some stops together as well. Which
That's
is
that's
yeah.
that's the whole key is yeah, I feel like they'll compete in the trenches
Hmm.
pretty well because I think that's their strength. As good as their skill kids
Hmm.
are, I still think the strength of that football team is up front. So that should help them in a playoff setting.
Hmm. And then moving over to Region 7 or Region 27 and Division 7, two of our teams that we cover uh, barely with Trimble at 7-4 at Sims Valley 8-2. So Trimble goes on the road to South Gaia and wins 28-22 down Judah Cremines. I know he'd been injured, didn't hear if he was able to make it back for that game or not, but they've been down one of their better running backs throughout. Coach Phil Fair is just does a great job of getting his team ready and getting a big road win in the playoffs.
They have, and I think, based on that Week 10 Saturday night game, South Gallia, Sims Valley, pretty
Mhm.
comparable. Score a lot of points. Again, shout out. I think I counted on South Gallia. 8 seniors had their career come to an end.
Mm.
But man, they score a bunch of points, and that sounded like a really good game with Trimble. And I would think that you'll get the same exact type of game with Trimble Sims Valley.
Yeah, and Trimble, very well coached. They're going to they're going to run the ball. I was going to say put the ball on the ground, but you don't want to do that. So they're a type of team that's going to really grind you if you are not able to get out in front. The Sims Valley team, they like to air it out a good bit. Bronx Carpenter does a great job for them. Asher Maynard does a great job running the ball. So they're going to have to put up some points and they're going to have to put together some stops, something they haven't done a great job of all year. But that should be a really fun game in Willowwood on Friday night. So staying in Region 27, you got Strasburg Franklin at 8-3. They're going to they're going to head to 8-2 Waterford. Waterford was the 2 seed. This one looks like it could be pretty heavily in favor of Coach McCutcheon's uh, Wildcats in this one. I think that they've played a tough schedule. They lose to Fort Fry, who, according to one of the writers, it's like they're not going to go 10-0 because they got to play Fort Fry. Even in years where they feel like they're better than Fort Fry just kind of has that number. Um, right now, they still do. So they lose to Fort Fry, then they lose by 1 point to Nelsonville York, where they miss a long field goal just wide. And then other than that, they really took care of their schedule. A good win over Caldwell in week 2. They're gonna be a team that I think we have to keep our eye on, for making a deep run in that Region 27.
You ever been to Fort Fry and Waterford down there?
I know it's from me to you away from each other.
That's what I'm saying. A
Yeah.
clear day, you can look out your window and keep an eye on each other. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like it's so I'm sure that's a pretty intense thing. And the thing I can't get past with Waterford, I'm not as familiar with Fort Fry
Mm,
because I just haven't seen them. I
yeah,
follow them and I hear what you hear. Man, that Nelsonville game sticks out with me.
yes.
Nelsonville, to watch what they have done throughout the year, know how good Athens is, and to see how Nelsonville kind of had their way with them
Mhm,
from a physicality standpoint, that tells me a lot about this Waterford team. I would think that they're really, really built for this exact type of football
mhm.
come this time of year as the weather turns a little cooler.
Yeah, so that's kind of their time to shine. We saw them a couple years ago. We had them on stream down at Eastern Pike, and they were a really tough team then. Coach McCutcheon does a great job with that program. And week 12 is their time to shine. So I look for Waterford to most likely advance in that as they are trying to build themselves up to possibly take down Hillsdale, as Hillsdale was state runner up last year in Division 7. So moving to Division 6, Region 24, Portsmouth West at 6-5 will go a very long trip over to Tri Village, who's 10-0 on the season. We had Coach Gilliland on the Coaches Call-In show. Man, you could just tell they played very well in their Week 11 win over Summit Country Day.
I felt good for them the other
Hmm.
night because I mean they scored 30 points and the defense is up to the challenge as well. Because that's a team all year long. I stayed pretty stubborn with. I felt like, man, it's a good football team. We watched them. They were playing Hillsborough when they were still at full strength,
Hmm.
and that was a really good football game. So as you go throughout the year, you understand the level of football in our conference, as we've
Hmm.
highlighted some. So so yeah, they've just been able to stay with it. To go out in week 11 and against a good opponent and put 30 points up on the board. That had to be a great feeling.
Yeah, so really good stuff there for Bertie Hall and Anthony Bishop and that whole group
Yeah.
on the west side. Going to be tough for them on the road this week, but the positive, if they like being on the bus with each other, they're going to be doing it for a long time on that. Coach Gilliland said he had been told it was closer to 3 hours for them from the west side over to Tri Village, which is in a league where almost every school has multiple names. So as as a Paint Valley guy, you probably appreciate that. So
Yeah.
then also staying in Region 24, maybe the feel good game of the night was Rock Hill dominated Dayton Christian in the second half. It was 2020. They ended up winning 47-28 to get their first win since week 7. So they moved to 7-4. They're going to have to go on the road to Northeastern. Another time they're going to be a sizable underdog, but really good win for Rock Hill.
Rock Hill reminds me that every game counts. You know, I
Mhm,
mean, sometimes we talk about, hey, you want to be playing your best football at the end of the year, and there's some truth to that. But like also working hard in the off season, getting into the preseason, being ready to go, and playing really well early
mhm,
matters because then you're not chasing it all year
mhm,
around. Look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know exactly what happened, but I know that what Rock Hill did in the first 4 or 5 weeks was really, really big in
mhm.
computer points, and it ended up giving them a little cushion so that when they did find hard times, John, they were able to look in the mirror and figure out, okay, let's figure this out. We've got to be better.
Mhm.
And then they obviously were. So you get into week 11, you're tied at the half, and then you talk about clicking. Something in that third quarter obviously went their way, and they took off.
Yeah, it's very impressive for Rock Hill. So, congratulations to the Redmen. Once again, going to be a tough one on the road, but that's why you play the game as well. So, we're going to jump to Division 5, Region 19. We've got 4 games this week with local teams playing in it. We'll start with St. Trace. St. Trace 9-2. We'll go to Columbus Academy 8-2. Man, we talked about it a little bit. St. Trace has to be feeling pretty good about where they're at.
No, no question. I mean, again, they're a team that I think is pretty complete. Their special teams, the number of the block punts and field goals and things throughout the year. Someone on the special teams unit there is doing an incredible job. Their ability to take the ball away, their ability to run. They didn't even run the football that well the other night.
Mhm,
You know what I mean? But obviously we know they can do that. And then when you are going to sell out and cheat on that, what they're starting to put on film more and more is what I've talked about. Athletes like McCullough and Stewart and Hartley and Higgins and these types of guys, they can make plays in the passing game, especially when it's on script or off of good play action or
mhm,
so forth. So not a ton of weaknesses. You're talking about a team that 9-2 that played the full strength Amanda team
mhm,
earlier in the year, and then obviously Unioto's really really good, and that was a coin flip game for about 3 quarters. So
mhm.
um, yeah, I mean I would think Zane Trace confident group going up there. I think everybody understands the level of athlete they're going to play against, but pull the ball out and see what they got.
Well, and then, Fantastic 50 has this pretty much as a coin flip,
Sure,
as
I'd
it
see
a
that.
yeah, as a three-point game, which I would guess because it's at Columbus Academy is
Yeah,
probably the three-point difference,
yeah.
and that as usually whenever they do those, it's between 2.5 to 3 points. So Zane Trace definitely can have a chance. Now, if you look at Columbus Academy, they lose to a really good Jonathan Alder, but they also lost a sizable game to Heath in week 3, 34-7. So that's a Heath team that only put up 3 points this week to Fairfield Union. So Zane Trace, when they look at the film, probably has to like their chances, but still will have to play very well in that one. So moving down, Morgan had a really nice win over Colgrove. Uh, the Raiders are 8-3. They will travel to Ed Miller Stadium to take on the 10-0 Wheelersburg Pirates, who came off of a bye week, but it sounded like it was anything but the normal prep for a bye week as Coach Woodward gets those guys really prepped.
Oh, there's no question, and congratulations, Colgrove, on an outstanding season. 8-3, they're 6-0, the undefeated
Mhm,
champions there in the OVC. So we've been talking about seniors. If you're a senior there at Colgrove this year, that'll be a memory you'll take with you forever. There, being on an
mhm,
undefeated league title team. I know they love their football down there, so that's an
mhm,
awesome thing to cap your career off with. But yeah, Morgan going and doing that to Colgrove, doubling them up
mhm.
basically, that tells you that's a pretty good football team. Now,
Yeah,
obviously, they're gonna, take a step up in the challenge, but Wheelersburg, what's not to like? I mean,
yeah,
we had them in person earlier this year, and I mean, just a quarter and a half into the game, you just felt your jaw drop. Like,
mm,
wow,
yeah,
athleticism, speed, focus, kicking game, check, check, check. I mean,
mm,
it's just really,
yeah,
really good.
yeah. It's a team that if you get to the 30 to 35-yard line, you're getting points
Mhm.
because Cooper Heimbach is just virtually automatic. And then, you get any further, you've got all kinds of weapons. If you hit Kenny Evans up, Brady Doss had a monster game in week
Mhm.
10, and you've got a quarterback that can do a little bit of everything. And he's to me on the Kenyon Evans play. Braylon Rucker was maybe the most impressive part. If you knew he was the quarterback, as he's running downfield, making all kinds of blocks as the quarterback on the reverse where Kenyon Evans is making about 17 guys miss. Just one of the big time highlight plays of the year. So I really like this Wheelersburg team. I think they've got a good chance. Morgan's going to come in with a lot of confidence as they've rolled off some wins in a row, but it's going to be a little bit different down there at Ed Miller
It
Stadium.
will be big time atmosphere, and they're no stranger to that. It's kind of like their annual
Yeah.
playoff get together down there in
Mhm.
Wheelersburg, and so I'm sure they'll be ready to roll.
Oh, yeah, and then, over at, I think it's Rocky Brand Stadium, over at Nelsonville, York at 10-0, Coach Rusty Richards, his group will host Union Local, the Jets, at 8-3. We had heard a lot about Afrocentric going into that game, like, "Hey, that's a team you gotta look for because they had a couple of big time prospects." Union Local had their way with them, so this is not gonna be an easy game in week 12 for Nelsonville York.
Yeah, over the years, watching Union local into the playoffs seems like they've matched up with a lot of our local teams.
Mhm.
Speed that seems to
Yeah.
be something that always jumps out at me, and you know we talk about it a lot in high school football. You get speed and space, and are you able to tackle them in the one-on-one settings? And so that's a team I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know much about, but
Right.
I just know over the years that's something that always jumps out at me.
Yeah, they typically, play a strong schedule, and then they are typically in the playoffs as well, so they are, on Fantastic 50, they're a slight favorite, probably going to just what Nelsonville's played in their overall schedule, so the schedule comparison a little bit stronger for Union Local, but, yeah, overall, I mean, it was an impressive win, 28-12. They win at Africentric,
Yeah.
and that's gonna give them a chance to go to Nelsonville. Nelsonville's gonna come in ready to play, and I guarantee that crowd is gonna be loud and raucous, and it's gonna be an outstanding atmosphere over there in Nelsonville.
Yeah, I really like this Nelsonville team. I really do.
Mhm,
I think they're really built for this here,
mhm,
and I'm really anxious to follow that game because I think this Nelsonville team is really built for this.
and then, uh, in a way, a team with 6 straight wins. Technically, on paper, 6 straight wins for Portsmouth, uh, might be 5 of the last 6, on the field, but Portsmouth at 8-3, they will go to Barnesville, not a short trip at all, to play the Christmas colored um, Barnesville Crew. Have you ever seen their
Uh-huh.
uniforms? Yeah, not the greatest color scheme,
But
but
they play pretty good football
they
though.
play very good
Yeah,
football.
yeah,
So when we talk about Union Local, Barnesville shut them out in Week 10. So I mean that's a very good
yeah,
team
yeah.
over in
So
Barnesville.
they weren't bothered by the speed.
No, they
Yeah.
were not. So Barnesville, the Shamrocks, 8-2 this year. Um, they lose to 2 teams from West Virginia, undefeated against schools in Ohio, including that 34-0 win over Union Local in Week 10. They beat Fort Fry 35-7. They have put together an outstanding season, and really the last few years, outstanding seasons as well. They've won 2 playoff games in 3 of the last 5 seasons, and partially because of that, they get themselves into a really good position here.
Let me throw this at you, and you just tell me I'm way off, and that's okay if I am. But like Portsmouth, did they catch a break in Week 10? Yes. Did they catch a break in a way in week 11?
Mhm.
Probably. And I've heard that, and that's
Yeah,
fair. People have
yeah.
their opinions. That doesn't bother me. Give your opinions, and I hear them. But then the coach in me takes over of like, I watched this team on opening night against a phenomenal Unioto team.
Mhm,
They struggled with center quarterback exchange. They struggled in formation. They struggled in a lot of different areas, and Unioto's talent had a lot to do
mhm,
with that. But to stay with it throughout the year and get better and better and better and better,
mhm.
and we talk about it like none of those things are Portsmouth's fault.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they did they catch some breaks? Yeah, but then did they take the break and capitalize on it? Yes. So I mean, here they are. They're going to play football in the week 12. Are they going to play an incredible opponent? Yes. Are they in over their head? Maybe, but they're there.
Mhm,
So I just wanted to throw that out there because I respect people's sports opinions of what happened,
mhm.
but none of what happened had anything to do with Portsmouth, so
Right.
all they did was cash in on it, and I say congrats to them.
Yeah, so they have played some teams, that Ironton team, I would say is better than Barnesville.
Mm,
So just a couple weeks ago, they played a team that's probably better than what they're going to play this coming week. Now, Barnesville, outstanding, obviously, but so they've gone out and they've played a tough schedule. That Unioto team's had an outstanding season, and you start off 2-3, and then you just get rolling.
Yeah.
If you're Portsmouth now,
The Portsmouth Colgrove score there in front of
it was 20-14 Colgrove.
Yeah, so like
Yeah.
right there, that was how close you are
Mm.
to playing at a championship level in
Mm.
your conference too.
Yeah, so they're one score away from winning their conference. So yeah, this is a Portsmouth team that has really taken advantage of the chances they've had. This is their fifth straight season where they've won at least one playoff game. So it's a program. Coach Cobb has the program moving in a really positive direction. If you saw them to start the season, maybe you didn't think it was going to happen. But you have to look at who they played and then the adjustments that they've made throughout the season. Since week 5, they played outstanding football. They've taken care of business, and now they've got a chance to play in week 12 once again against a really good opponent.
Yeah.
But in week 12, you get a chance to get on the bus, you get a chance to practice all week,
Yeah.
you get a chance to get better.
And again, you'll hear a bunch of people say it's the old college model of the bowl games. Like when you get into a 2 or 3 weeks of playoff football, I've had a lot of coaches tell me you really let up physically, but what you really do is it turns into like a free camp with
Mhm.
your young kids.
Yep.
You're getting all of that football practice with more and more kids, and they're still playing football.
100%. So, congratulations to Portsmouth on what they've been able to do so far. So, now we're going to move to Division 4. We're going to start in Region 16 first. So, Washington, a 56-35 winner over New Richmond last week. Washington at 6-5. They will play at Indian Hill, who 10-0. The Braves are an outstanding team, outstanding program. I'm going to read off something though that has a little to do with what they've done. So, going back to 2016, the Wyoming Cowboys,
Yeah.
out of the same conference, have 2 regular season losses. In 2023, they lost to Indian Hill. This year, they lost to Indian Hill again. So, 2 times since 2016 has Wyoming lost a regular season game. Like, that's so absurd. Um,
Did
that
I go to Wyoming to watch Unioto play a playoff game here?
well, we watched Wyoming. Yeah,
I mean,
so yeah, I think that was at the start of it. So that was 2016. Yeah,
well, they
so
had guys like going to Northwestern and
uh-huh.
going to going D1.
Yeah, the year before they lost 2.
Yeah.
Whatever. So
Just a little bit down that year.
yeah, so yeah, just I pulled up their team history page. I'm like, oh my goodness, like every year. And whenever you hear Indian Hill, maybe you see them with a couple losses each year. Well, that's usually why. But man, they are absolutely loaded, especially defensively. And that's going to be a fun matchup because what Sandpiper in that offense can do against teams, I'm sure Indian Hill's seen it, but it's going to be really interesting to see what Washington can actually do because the most points they've given up in a game was 14 to New Richmond, who um, scored 35 and gave up 56 to Washington Courthouse. But at least you have a like opponent. It's going to be really tough to go down to Indian Hill and win that. But the last, let me go back to this real quick. Going back after the Wyoming game, so they beat Wyoming 28-7. Wyoming, who's 10-1, by the way. They win 36-0, 52-0, 48-0, 45-0. Huge letdown in week 9, 48-6, and then 37-0. So in their
6 points.
yeah, 6 points since they beat Wyoming. So gonna be really tough. But you know what?
Big picture, again, you're trying to chase down the likes of a Jackson, Miami Trace in that league. Now still fairly young at a lot of
Mhm.
skill positions. Uh, Again, being on this stage, getting this chance to play, you'll grow from every experience.
Yep, 100%. So any chance you get to get that additional week of practice is just going to help out this Washington program. So then moving to Division 4, Region 15, Columbus East at Unioto. We'll talk a little bit more about that coming up. But Columbus East 10-1, Unioto 10-0. That one should be a really fun matchup. Circleville 8-3 at the state champions, Indian Valley 9-0. As Coach Sherritt said, I really liked what he said on the Coach's Call-In show. It's just like you win it and forget it. You just move on. Then you celebrate it later, but you got to get ready because you're going to play a really good opponent in week 12.
Yeah, well, I mean, he would know, it's a great opportunity. And I go back to what I said earlier, the stages of growth and how it's been so rapid. That's what's impressive.
Mhm.
And I said it a second ago, you'll grow from each thing here. You always try to go to that next level, and then there's a new challenge waiting. And then if you reach a part where you are a little bit in over your head, then you learn from it,
Mhm.
and you hope the next time you're in it, you're not.
Right, exactly. So, Indian Valley made a historic run last year, winning the state championship. They got an outstanding running back and just overall outstanding team as well. So, gonna be tough for Circleville, but a great opportunity as well. So, Fairfield Union 7-4 will travel to New Lexington at 9-1. As we mentioned earlier, New Lexington won 26-6 in week one. These two teams have played each other for years. There's not going to be anything that they're gonna surprise each other with. It's just gonna be who plays the better defensive football. Typically, throughout the year, it's been New Lexington, but Fairfield Union won't be intimidated because A, they played them, and B, they played just an outstanding schedule.
Talking to some new Lex people over the last couple of years, I've got to know some of them, really, really good people, really intelligent
Mhm,
sports people. Got to know some of their basketball fans a year ago this year in their volleyball coverage. I've really
mhm,
enjoyed past Thursday, past Saturday, talking to them. They've
mhm,
had some kind words for us, and
mhm,
they've talked about how there's just a group of kids right now on the boys and girls side that have great culture. They
mhm.
they they really like each other. They support each other. You kind of see that in the student
Yep.
section the other day, and it's just they feel like they're really on to something there, and it's showing up in the results.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely a good thing over there in New Lexington, and as you said, like, that was just such a great crowd the other night, and just
Hungry crowd.
yeah.
I use the word hungry on there because you could tell that they sensed that they never had it before, and they're like, "This is the time right now. We've got to go."
Mhm.
I love the urgency almost the fans were giving their kids.
Yeah, and they're a program in the Southeast who, as someone who coached in Division II now, or division it would be, you just knew if you saw New Lexington, you knew A, they're gonna play somebody they played a great schedule, and B, they always had 1 to 2 studs, and you just never knew what the rest were gonna be.
Yeah.
And now the rest is caught up with the 1 to 2 studs, and
Yeah.
that's just made them have a lot of success over this, uh, recent run. Now football's been a longer term success for them, but right now, they're in a really good groove right now. And then our last game that we will and we'll preview a little bit. Division 3, Region 12, Miami Twa Miami Twace. Man, I just went into yeah, Miami Trace 10-1 at Jackson, who's 8-2. The finals of the FAC Invitational, as we said, as Miami Trace had a sizable win over Hillsborough last week. Now, Miami Trace at Jackson, we had round one in week 9 over at Miami Trace. You and Carson called it. A couple weird things happened in the game when it was tied. And I think Miami Trace feels like they were a couple of unlucky breaks away from winning that game. So they're going to come
Sure.
into that game really hungry. And I think Jackson really in their minds has to be thinking, man, we started off down 14 nothing in the first 2 minutes and dominated the game after that. So they both probably are going to come into this game with a lot of confidence and a chip on their shoulder just based off of kind of what the outside talk is.
Oh, I don't think there's any question. I mean, anybody who watched the game, we had the best seat in the house.
Mhm,
Anybody who watched the game knew that it was pretty much a coin flip game all the way down to the end, as we thought it would be.
mm,
So they get together now. What would that be like 3 weeks later? I wouldn't
mm.
see why it wouldn't be the same again.
Right.
Just all they do is move venue. The incredible crowd on both sides still going to pack this stadium the
Mhm.
same as they did the other stadium,
Yep.
and we're going to get an incredible football game one more time.
Yeah. Alumni Stadium, Holzer Field should be packed, should be outstanding. You hear a lot about the big time recruits from Miami Trace, and for good reason. I mean,
Sure.
you got Adam Guthrie, an outstanding lineman. Gonna go to Clemson. Julian Baker is gonna have his choice of a lot of different places. Believe he just went over the 2,000-yard mark the other day, and that's with missing a game. And just the FAC just loaded with athletic players. And then you got a Cooper Enix that can really make things happen. the guys you don't hear about as much are just the steadiness over at Jackson. Jackson, you got Ryan Simons, who just a winner, makes plays. Bodie Wolford getting really healthy at this point. He's played really well over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
A CJ Crabtree.
Ray.
Yeah, Eli Ray. You've got just a bevy of guys. Charlie Woodard. It's just, and they have their own line play that's outstanding as well.
Allen
Yeah,
going
Jake
to
Allen.
UNC Charlotte,
Yeah, Jake
right?
Allen going to Charlotte. So I mean, you've got some just unbelievable players on both sides, and that's what's going to make this another great football game. You got two really good coaching staffs that really know each other. Should be really fun. I mean that game will be streamed not by us. It will be streamed by another group. So if you want to watch that game, it's going to be available. And if not, that's one of those games. Get down to Alumni Stadium. Go watch that game
Just see it
in
in person,
person.
take in
Yeah.
the atmosphere. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have a lot of options on how to watch that game. Should be outstanding. And if you want to go back and rewatch uh what we're talking about a little bit in week 9, it's back in our archives and
Mhm.
was a really fun night over at Miami Trace, and this one should be a really fun night in the Apple Cities.
No
But
question.
but our streaming game of the week will be over at Unioto, Columbus East at Unioto on Friday. 10-1 Columbus East will take on the 10-0 Shermans. First time ever for Unioto being 10-0 in the regular season. They had a few 9-0s, but never got to 10-0. Kind of my big stat on this game over the last 4 seasons, East has won 36 games, while Unioto has won 37. So they are both in just outstanding times for their programs. East absolutely put it on Canton South on Friday. I think some people were surprised about it. I know Coach Hoops was a little surprised on it just based off of watching the film of the two schools. And he said really glowing remarks about what this East team could do. A lot of speed, Union's gotta make sure they cut off the edges, can't let them, get outside because that's when East can really take advantage of their speed advantage.
Yeah, love the stat that you're giving there, because senior groups on both sides have come through a lot of winning.
Mhm,
I'm sure. Remember with the new Lex volleyball program, I use the term hungry. I'm
mhm,
sure both of these programs are hungry to kind of prove that they can take this next step and go. Um, I'm getting into early film work now, so by the time I get middle week, I'll have a better sense of the matchup. What I do know in comparison to previous years, I feel like Unioto, where they're different than a lot of years, is just the depth of in the trenches,
mhm,
their defensive line. You talk about setting the edge. I feel like they should be able to do that. They should be
mhm,
able to play assignment football. I feel like they're not a team remember, I was talking small school defense earlier. They're not a team that counts on two or three
mhm,
guys to go make 80% of their tackles. They're a group that athletically can have some integrity in their lanes and their assignments. And on this play, I'm responsible
mhm,
for this. And if the ball comes in my area, I'll get the guy to the ground, or
mhm,
or I'll fight off the block so that you can come get it. Whatever that assignment is. So that's a big factor. Now, I worry a little bit about Uniota's running back depth and their ability to run the football because if they have to become too one-dimensional through the air in this matchup, I feel like this is a group that far better than anything Uniota's seen in the regular season will have the ability to match up athletically with some of Uniota's pass catchers.
mhm,
So I think no matter how they have to do it, Uniota has to figure out a way to still stay balanced in their
mhm.
attack and run the football. And again, I know they may even have to get creative in terms of who carries the ball
Right,
if they don't have their guys available. But the one thing Coach Hoops has enough of are some athletes sitting around. Grab one of them and say, "Look, I need you to run the football a little bit
right.
so that we can be balanced in terms of what we're trying to do."
Yeah, that the injuries in the backfield is something, I think Coach Hoops could tell you, be like, we have the depth, we can deal with some injuries. You would think at different positions, not all at the exact same
That's right.
position throughout the year,
But
so
don't you agree that
yeah,
Uniota has enough speed and some skill to where they may not have a body type that, hey, I'm gonna give you the ball 20 times, but like I can give this kid the ball 4 or 5 times, this kid the ball 4 or 5 times. We can bring him in motion, we can fake it and keep it, we can get
yeah,
creative. But I just feel like if they don't stay balanced, this is going to be a matchup where they're going to put a lot of pressure on Hoy, where the first receiver may not always be open. He may need some time to be able to look
Mm.
for the matchup.
Yeah, I think that's where you could see, David Long get used a good bit.
Yes.
They used, Luke Howard in week 9. He ran the ball a couple of different times, another senior.
They use beam and some
Yeah.
formations. Maybe he can give them 4 or 5 carries throughout the
Mhm.
night.
Yeah, and then, it's, Henry Vallette has
Yep,
done a nice job for them throughout
yep.
the year. Mm, we've talked about, throughout the year, Brayton Harsha, he's been outstanding. Maybe he gets a couple of touches in there. I think, as you said, they're gonna need to be creative, and you're gonna need to go downhill. You're not gonna be able to get outside on these guys a whole lot because the speed's gonna be there, but you may be able to use your size and power advantage up front, and then if you can run some clock and get yourself into maybe non-obvious passing situations, that's when you can get Jackson Zickelfoose in a one-on-one. He
Yes.
can make a double move. Or if you've seen some of the highlights of him, just give him the ball because he's going to make guys miss.
He
He just
has
makes
a
guys miss.
way he has a way on this stage. I'll be shocked if somewhere throughout the night, he just has a way on this stage. We watch it in baseball, we watch it in
Mm,
basketball. He just has a way.
yep. Well, and we kind of mentioned it before. He's fearless,
Yeah,
and because he's
yeah.
fearless, you get him the ball, and good things are going to happen. I don't know if he can be the guy you give the ball to run the ball all game, but you get him in space, doesn't matter who it is, he's gonna make someone miss and pick up a few extra yards, if not take it to the house. So
Yeah.
that one I think should be really fun to watch. Union's defense hasn't been tested that much throughout the year. So should be a fun test for the Shermans in that one. So um, looking forward to seeing that game over at Unioto on Friday night, and then afterwards we'll have the last episode of the Coaches Call-In Show for the fall season coming up after that game. So check out that game on live stream here, and then the Coaches Call-In Show will be right after.
Yeah, just clean out the notebook here. I think we covered a ton. With some of the losing teams, I know Athens had about 14, 15 seniors. Anthony Sutton, Daniel Heitland, I enjoyed covering them this year. Wanted to highlight them. I know Hillsborough went through a tough stretch of adversity.
Mhm.
Again, um, yet they still make the playoffs,
Right.
and there's something to be said there for their senior class. Chillicothe, much improved. We know Parte Ligon is outstanding, but we also had double-digit seniors
Mhm.
there that really helped have a foundation year I've referred to. So I still think Chillicothe's best football's ahead of them, but I think we'll look back to this year's seniors as again setting the foundation for some
Well,
things. So
and that's very similar to what we were talking about earlier with Valley. Someone's got to do it. Someone's got
that's
to
it.
set that
That's
foundation.
it.
Truett McGlone, one of those kids that's had a really nice career for Chillicothe and had a great year this year.
Eastern Megs lost 35-7. I know you
Mm.
like Ethan Edwards. I do
Yes.
too.
Yeah.
Three-sport athlete. Uh, really, really nice player there.
Mhm.
I think they only had like 6
Mhm.
seniors.
Yeah, not a
So
lot.
they're going to be a team that will be right back there. So that clears out my notebook on the football. Anything you're missing?
No, not really. I wanted to hammer on the Valley and Piketon Huntington kids, and overall, I just think it's going to be should be a really fun week 12 coming up.
Well, I know our soccer and volleyball will not be that long, but it'll be very
Mhm.
important still
Yes.
because of what teams are
Yeah.
accomplishing. So let's just jump right into it. I'll let you go the regional rundown on the boys. Wheelersburg's had quite a week.
Yeah, a great week for Wheelersburg, topped off today. But it started off on Wednesday in just a monsoon. If you haven't seen Derek's pictures of that
It was really
game,
cool.
some really cool pictures of that match, and it wasn't even that much of it because the downpour was just so bad. I did have to go up to Nick Sylvia and Coach Estep before as I was using my Unioto umbrella that night. Be like, hey, just so you know, I'm being completely just down the middle today. I'm not rooting one way or the other, but this is my umbrella I've got. So they beat Unioto 4-2, outstanding game there. Unioto had a great second half. Um, Liam Matthews scores late for him, or about midway through. Elliot Osop scores as well, takes it from a 2-2 or 2-0 that they were trailing, makes it 2-2. But man, in the last few minutes, you got a cross from Evan Mitchell. Carson Estep finishes with a header on the backside, and then Evan Mitchell with just an unreal individual play to score to make it 4-2. Both of those goals in the last 10 minutes. Um, Kind of shout out to Unioto. several impressive young kids on that team. Um, I mentioned Allsop, you got Luke Motts, and then you just look at Blake Aginger, Johnny Wetzel's guys that are coming back. But man, they had some seniors. Liam Matthew, Bryce Derringer, two of the main ones, really helped them. Um, had to play bigger minutes than maybe they were expecting when they were young. And then it kind of paid off in the end as they get back to the regional for the first time since they were in eighth grade. So, nice season for them. But Wheelersburg just continued rolling. Today, they beat Riverview 2-0. Riverview beat them last year 4-2 in the same game to go on to the state, and then they win the state championship. A lot of those kids back, but Wheelersburg gets a little bit of revenge. A 2-0 win. Pair of goals from Nick Sylvia. You can see them on our socials as well. An elite defensive effort from their senior back line of Clark Weller, Sean Bays, Kason Witt, Andrew Tabor, and then goalkeeper Braden Bird, his 47th career shutout. So just
Wow.
outstanding for him. This Wednesday, they will take on Worthington Christian in the state semifinal. Second chance in the state semifinals for them. They lost to a really good Cincinnati Marymount team in 2020. This time, the location has not been announced yet. It may be announced by the time we go to press here tomorrow morning. I would guess it'll be either in the Chillicothe area or at Logan, one of those. There's probably three options: St. Trace, Chillicothe, and Logan. I would say should be an outstanding matchup either way. Nick Sylvia with his 50th goal of the season, over 170 career goals. Um, I was pumped whenever I put it out because like I've been putting out the reels on Facebook of like the goals I get. And like for the last 2 years, I've just been like, oh, he's inevitable. Nick Sylvia's going to get you at some point. And I just put out the reel today when Nick Sylvia gets his 50th goal. And then Derek had fixed it to like the inevitable. Nick Sylvia I was like, yeah, let's go. I got my nickname to
Yeah.
go through. So he's been outstanding. And one of the cool things, they played the last 2 years against Riverview. They scrimmaged in the summer, and whenever they're out celebrating, Riverview goes to the locker room. They come out, and like 5 or 6 of their players came out and just congratulated Wheelersburg. You can just tell the mutual respect
Mhm.
from programs that have done things that not a lot of programs in the Southeast and the East have done before. So it was pretty cool to see that afterwards. Their goalie was unbelievable, and Braden Bird was, as always, outstanding as well. So congratulations to Wheelersburg as they get to the finals or the final four. And then earlier in the week, North Adams actually shocked South Webster. Caleb Eldridge scored, and then their defense was outstanding. They end up losing 2-0 today to Fairbanks in the regional final. Their first trip
Yeah.
ever to the regional final. Fairbanks, a really good program from the Central. I believe it's their first trip to the Final Four. So congratulations to them as well. That game was over at St. Trace. North Adams, an outstanding group of seniors, really headlined by Bo Hessler, Tristan Young, and Preston Cole. But man, if I didn't comment about how outstanding center back Dalton Pence has been every time I've watched them, he is one of the best defensive players that I've seen in the past 5 years of doing this. So
The
he's
elite
he's
teams always have that X factor
yeah,
too.
and it's
Yeah.
just and being a defender, you don't see it a whole lot. You don't hear about it a whole lot. But
Well,
man,
they don't
there's
just have a stat for it, but
exactly.
again, you need someone like yourself that sees and be like, "Hey, that kid right there is the reason this happens, this happens, this
Mhm.
happens, this happens." It's that X factor.
Yep,
Yeah.
100%. And like, you'll see an interview that's going to come out, I think, on Tuesday with Braden Bird of Wheelersburg, and that he mentioned he's like, I get the shutouts, but it's because of those guys
Sure.
that it happens. And any good goalie, Thad Moore, only a junior for North Adams, will tell you the same thing. His defense has been outstanding. So, congratulations to North Adams, their best season that they've had in program history. And then South Webster, you know, they fall a little short of where they wanted to get. The second year in a row, they lose in the Sweet 16, 1-0. They lost in the Elite Eight when they were sophomores, but it's been an outstanding group. Great seniors. Hunter Bernard, we've talked about at length on here, just an outstanding career. He's going to go on to have a great senior basketball season and then a great senior baseball season as well. So that's one of the things that makes Southwebster as outstanding as they are is what these guys do as multi-sport athletes. And then I'm gonna just list off a couple more here. Benaiah Andrews, Bryson McClintock, Sam Murphy, another one. Just a really good group of kids that played a high level of soccer throughout their 4 years. Coach Claxton couldn't talk better about that group. They're gonna miss them a good bit. But man, Sam Murphy is the one I really want to highlight a little bit more. They thought he was done late in the season. Had a big injury, and he pretty much was told. And that was a cool interview that is here on our YouTube page of after they won their district final, and he talked about how he was told more or less that he wasn't going to be able to play again, and then just through a lot of prayer and good luck as well, and he's able to come back and finish his career on the field, which is where it should be. So outstanding year for him. He's going to be a really big part of that baseball program as well. And then the last boys team I wanted to shout out, Jackson loses to Dover in the Sweet 16, but it's the first time they made it back to the Sweet 16 since 2005. So an outstanding season for them, FAC champions. I believe it was 17 wins. Um, a lot of seniors in that program. Grady Massey, Thatcher Brown, Ryan Lefevre, Landon Profit, just some of them uh, really have set that program to new heights and been outstanding for Jackson.
That's good stuff on the boys' side. On the girls' side, I know just in talking to you as we've traveled to games or just talk sports off the air or whatever, you really, really like the Alexander and McLean
Mm,
group. You talk about kind of pushing one another to higher levels.
yes.
Those were two teams I really enjoyed your coverage
Mm.
throughout the postseason. Talk about them a little bit on the girls' side.
Yeah, they played on Tuesday down at Jackson. It was a 2-1 game. Really an instant classic. It was outstanding. So uh Kara Allison scores early in that one, just complete hustle goal and just read it perfectly. And then early in the second half, um, want to make sure I get the Miley Lovett sends in a corner kick and Lara Henson gets a header in to score. And then almost immediately after the kickoff, Allison or there's a foul. Allison takes a free kick. She connects with Arbor Albano and she scores. I believe it was less than a minute later. And then they hold on to win that game 2-1. Just two outstanding programs, as you mentioned, pushing each other. It was the best season ever for McLean. Paisley Pryor, Henson, a couple of the players that we mentioned a lot. Pryor, their leading scorer, but man, they had a great group of seniors. Addison O'Laker, Becca Bergstrom, Leah Lovett, Miley Lovett, Bailey Parson, just some of them. Parson and Bergstrom just absolutely nasty defensively. Lovett did a great job in goal. O'Laker helped push Pryor up
A
front as
lot
well.
of Greenfield names there,
Yes.
that had a lot of community support
Mhm.
behind it as well.
Yeah, just an outstanding program. Coach Bergstrom did a great job with them, and taking them to new heights as a program. But for Alexander, they end up losing a heartbreaker to Beaver Local 1-0 on Saturday. They had a couple of really good looks in that one and just couldn't get anything to fall. But they had an outstanding season, their best year since 2018. We just had a story go up about them on sosaohio.com. So if you want to read more about them, it's there. Kara Allison, Arbor Albano, Brooklyn Mets, just some of those players for that. Kaylee Hudnall, she got hurt in that McLean game, but when she came back in, you could just feel it kind of lifted the team as a whole. You're going to see a lot of those players playing basketball as well. It should be an
I was
outstanding.
going to say Alexander girls right now, TVC High Chance volleyball, the soccer stuff you're telling us is phenomenal, and then I really think they'll be a group on the basketball court that'll take even another step forward this year.
Yeah, so should be outstanding for them. And then the last group that I really want to talk about, Fairfield, they get back to the Sweet 16 for the second time in 3 years. They end up losing in overtime in the semifinals. Ava Hooper, one of their seniors, she scored to tie the game, and then they just unfortunately uh, can't break through in overtime and end up falling to Fairbanks. Really nice group of seniors. Ava Hooper, Riley Quickle, just a couple of those. Uh, got some really talented players coming back though as well. So look for Fairfield in the future.
Outstanding. So still got Wheelersburg playing on then. I know we'll
Mm.
talk about that next week, and I'm sure we'll have plenty of coverage on what they're doing throughout the week too. So anything else soccer wise?
Uh, man, that like if there's some of those schools you didn't hear about is didn't have a whole lot of seniors, and if there's anyone we really missed, and you want us to,
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know, we're not done with soccer. We're not done with volleyball. Like, we can go back to these. If there's anyone that you feel like we may have missed, just let us know. But if we may have left someone out, it's not for lack of
Yeah.
anything. It's just, man, it's just right now, just kind of going on to the teams we just had
Right.
get eliminated, and there's outstanding players across the Southeast District, and really fun to watch a lot of them as well.
Yeah, of course.
So, speaking of some outstanding players, so you got to see a lot of them this week in volleyball as we had four teams, uh, three teams reach the regional final in the Southeast. We had several more make it to the well, I guess we had four teams because New Lexington is in the Southeast District, not necessarily
Well, right.
yeah,
Yeah.
not necessarily in our coverage area.
Yeah.
So, but in our coverage area, we had three teams make to the regional final. None of them are able to move on. But what can you tell us a little bit about what we saw this week in volleyball?
Well, let's just take it in kind of chronological order. The first thing Wednesday night, we expected to not have the ability to put the
Mm,
Division Six. We hated that it was South Webster and Lucasville playing, but we didn't really have the logistics because of the early start time to get all the way over to Zanesville to get it set up and
mm,
to go. Well, uh, ADs at both schools immediately got on the horn when they knew they were going to play. That's my understanding when I was down at Valley the other night, and they communicated with Southeast District. They communicated with the state. Everybody jumped on board. What an incredible move! Great crowd over
mhm.
at Wilson. Wilson's got a beautiful
Yeah.
facility, and I just thought that was really well done. So hats off to them. You and I have just talked about as we go to 7 divisions, and we're going to get more, and all the venues we've used. Sometimes we're going to have new venues now. These are the types of things that we need to do to create the most logical venues of travel, fans, support, all of those things. So again, hats off to everybody that made that happen. So as a result, Dewey and I said, "Hey, want to go to Wilson to do the volleyball game?" Well, of course I want to go.
Mhm.
Well, it's going to be
Yeah.
incredible, and it was. Um, they were able to go 5 and just back and forth, and as you got late into the match, you know. South Webster ends up being just a little bit better on that night, and then as they move to the regional final, John, they meet their match with an undefeated Newark
Mhm.
Catholic team, and they fall over the weekend here 25-16, 19, and 10. But just wanted to highlight a little bit of Addie Claxon. I mean,
Mhm.
she's still got her basketball and softball ahead of her, but volleyball, she played a lot of libero her entire career, and then all of a sudden she hits this year and has like almost 300 kills.
Mhm.
And I've said before, we make a lot of milestones, but sometimes you just got to eye test it and be like, that kid right there would have 1,000 kills if she'd hit.
Right.
That kid right there, she had over 1,800 digs. She'd have had over 2,000, was 2,500 maybe if she's being libero, where she's back there a
Mhm.
few more times focused on that. Over 2,500 serve receives. That's a phenomenal number. I've talked about that before. Over 200 aces. And you're just talking about a really,
Mhm.
really good. So, really, really, really impressed with um, them. Sydney Kessler, obviously, the setter, 1,700 assists. Carly Mays, Kinley Horner, uh, Georgia Colley there. The senior group there, winners.
Mhm.
Lot of winning they've done in that program, and just wanted to highlight Addie Claxton. All Ohio came out today. I
Mhm.
don't have that in front of me. I want to say she was second team. Um,
Just
really,
a just
really well deserved. I mean,
just
really, really
just
good
a
volleyball
winner.
player.
Yeah.
Really,
He's
I made the comment the other night in the fifth set. Like sometimes people, get a little tired or I made the comment right in the middle of the match the other night. I said, here we are. We're about 5 points away from the Elite Eight, and she looks like she's having more fun than anybody right now. She's like, "Give me the ball." You know what
yeah.
I mean? Like it was just fun to watch. I really enjoyed her interviews.
Mhm.
Seems like a good leader,
Mhm.
has a good understanding, and just really appreciate that senior group there in the Division 6. So then that takes us to our next night, where in our Division 5 we had the incredible matches of Adina up against Union Local, and we had Wheelersburg New Lex. That was the 43 kill night for Katie Burns and what she was able to do there. I thought their defense, as always, was outstanding. I thought Sowers and Balser did a good job of delivering the ball where they needed to, and then Burns was swinging away. Union Local was throwing the kitchen sink out. Union Local had a couple nice players themselves. The Saunders girl was outstanding, and Katie was just really showing off the entire arsenal that night. She was swinging with power down through the block, tip it left, tip it right. I talked about in our opening segment tonight, teammates calling out behind her, coaches making great adjustments from the bench. As the match goes on, if you have holes in your rotation, they're going to find them, and then they can exploit them because they usually pass it and set it, and they handle the ball so cleanly. They have a lot of teams. They want to go pick on this corner here, but the ball isn't handled cleanly enough to where they can even get in system to do it. Adina obviously has the ability to do that. So um, he went over 1,400 kills in her career. I think 1,100 of those in the last 2 years. I mean, she only had, I think she only had 51 kills as a freshman. Think about that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's unbelievable in terms of what she was able to do. Obviously Adina's week, they beat Union Local, then fall to New Lex over the weekend. And then New Lex got there with defeating Wheelersburg. So in terms of defeating Wheelersburg, you had it was 25-22, 25-20. Wheelersburg comes back, wins 25-22 before falling 25-20. So it's a really competitive back and forth. Wheelersburg's depth matched up fairly well with New Lex. New Lex was just a little too much for them on that night, but I want to highlight a couple seniors here for them as well. Everybody knows how much I love the game of Ella Chamberlain. We talk about great programs waiting your turn. When I looked this up today, she only had 6 assists as a freshman. So then she finished with just under 2,500. So again, in some of these programs of like there's probably a really talented young setter right now at Wheelersburg. We don't even know her name yet because she's been waiting behind Ella to play. You know what I mean? I know there's a couple JV kids. There's a Skeens kid on the JV team. I watched hit outside earlier this year, and I'm thinking, that girl will be all league next year. Like, you know what I mean? She'll hit opposite of Mullins next year and be like all league. And you're like, wow. Speaking of hitting opposite of Mullins, Grace Woodward, man, she's good. She's as underappreciated a player as maybe we have in any sport in the fall. But listen to some of these numbers here. Over 800 kills, just shy of 1,000 career digs, over 150 aces, and just winner. You know what I mean? Like, you talk about winning. We talked about, I don't have the number in front of me. I know Derek tweeted out 90 and 17 for the Adina seniors. I would love to know what that number is for the Wheelersburg kids, because they certainly have been good as well. So Brooklyn Miller out of the middle and Miley Gleam Libero have been the other seniors in that group there. So then as you move on, we had in the Division 4, London beats Circleville. Really tight match in the middle. Circleville had won the first set, but then they 26-24, 26-24. There's next second, third set. That's where Circleville had every opportunity there. Meadowbrook was the other team that won there and then went on to punch the ticket. So Circleville says goodbye to Drew Hoskins, good outside hitter. That's a good job. Claire Davis played some libero for him. Maddie Blakeman, Kayla Fleck, Lily Tootle, those are the seniors there. Blakeman and Fleck are two kids, a lot like what I was saying with Groff earlier from Loganell. Just play winning volleyball. They're kids that in other programs maybe they play a bigger role. What they do is they play the role that they're asked to play in a winning formula. That Circleville is obviously as good as any team we have in our coverage area. Even though this is outside of our coverage area, Luke Carroll, won in the semi and the final 3-2. They won their
Mm.
last 3 tournament matches 3-2.
Sh-
So they're going ahead and heading on. You talked about this team last week, John. If you have anything you want to throw in there, Eastern Megs falls in the regional semi. Um, Eastern does not
I
have a
was gonna say
senior
no
at
seniors.
19 wins.
Yep.
So I was looking to highlight their senior, and Notre Dame beat Shekinah Christian. Remember, Shekinah Christian beat Edina
Mhm.
earlier this year. Notre Dame beats them in 4. So what happens then is you get, oh, by the way, earlier, Valley, Emily Roberts played the
Mhm.
middle for them, 18-win team district title. That's their only senior. I wanted to highlight her because, again, I think sometimes senior role players get overlooked in
Mhm.
terms of the maturity and the leadership that they bring. So I wanted to
Mhm.
highlight as well. Um, but yeah, so I mean, I don't think I missed anything. Notre Dame went on to the final on Saturday, and they fall. Um, I do want to highlight Macy Ford.
Mhm.
She only had 1 kill as a freshman in the final 3 years over 800, 4.4 this year. Again, sometimes in those great programs, you don't get to play as a
Right.
freshman. You get to play as a
Mhm.
sophomore. Um, they lose in 4, 25-19. They come back, they win the second set 25-22. I know we were excited when we heard they were tied
Yep.
at 1. Then they fall 25-17, 16 to end the match. But again, Macy Ford, she was an all Ohio selection today, Division 7. Again, you can find those on SOSA.
Mhm.
I had a real nice article on that. Um, some of those Wheelersburg girls are on the list.
Mhm.
Claire King's on that list. Obviously, Katie Burns is on that list. Kimmy Dalton's on that
Mhm.
list. Ida Claxton's on that list. Rightful so, right? Up and down. But yeah, Bloom Carroll 26-1 lost to Circleville. I was in and
Mhm.
lost
Yeah.
until and now they go. But 3 matches in 8 days, they win in 5 over St. Francis de Sales, Shawnee, and Jonathan. So
Not
so
not too bad for
so that
them.
tells you Circleville and Logan Elm what they were up against this year in that particular league.
Yeah,
So
just a loaded league, and just to throw out a couple more names, like a Lindsay Schaefer for Notre Dame,
yes,
another one of those softball players as well as really good. She was an excellent setter for them. And then jumping over to Adina, and JC Smith, another senior, and then
Madison Wise Cup, Caroline
yeah,
Glandon,
Glandon played really well in
really
that
well.
third and fourth set for them. So um, they're gonna miss that group. Man, they got a lot coming back as well,
They
which
do.
which we talked about on the post game yesterday as well. So these are some outstanding programs. These are some outstanding players that are going to be leaving those programs, but with the coaches hanging around, they're going to be ones that are going to give them a chance uh, from here on out.
The player development's phenomenal. You just watch these kids. And again, some of these programs are so well established, they don't have to rush them, and that's a
Mhm.
luxury. I mean, let's
Yes.
face it. I mean, you know, at a lot of schools, you get like Ford at Notre Dame, and you get Chamberlain at Wheeler or whatever.
Mm.
They're playing for it. I mean, like at a lot of schools, they're you got to ready or not, come
Right.
on. Where in these programs, the player development and you learn, and that's what's so good too. So when you throw in these schools that do not have the seniors, like Eastern Megs in the lower division, the Guy
Mm.
Academy in the higher divisions, and you're just going to have fun volleyball just cycle right
Yeah.
through because it seems like all of these teams we've highlighted. Remember Miami Trace we
Mm.
highlighted. They have a couple all Ohio
Yeah.
kids back. Um, it's gonna make it for some good volleyball. The
Mm.
Hammond girl at Chillicothe was all Ohio.
Yep.
So I mean, you just got a lot of kids.
Yeah, some outstanding volleyball being played in our region for sure, due to a lot of coaching and a lot of talent as well. So,
Uh-huh.
um, congratulations to all of them on an outstanding season. Good luck to New Lexington next week as well, as they um, will represent the Southeast District, and an outstanding. That's a really good team as well. So you can check out their last 2 matches here in our archives as well if you want to watch some really good volleyball there.
Yeah,
So.
no question.
And then moving on, our last topic, man, it's once again we've talked about her at different times. Athens, Sophia Szolosi, cross country state champion, second straight season. She ran. I put it out yesterday. I think it was like a 17:39 last year, and then she runs a 17:03 this year. Just destroying
It's insane.
her own numbers. She had the fastest time in the state at uh regardless of division for the girls this year. She wins her second straight state championship, just outstanding for the Bulldogs. And then we're gonna get to talk about her in the spring too because of track. So I mean, it's just that's a you know if you want we've seen some local schools that have had some really nice years, but when you have someone that just elevates everyone else to that level, that's what can make a program be really good for a decade and even longer. So you can get some kids that are really excited to get out and run based off of the things that like Sophia Szolosi can do.
Trying to think of some of the great runners over the years, and a lot of them, they hit a peak or they the impressive thing is the way it just continues to build and
Mhm,
continue to build and continue to build, and that's what's got to be exciting for the next level as well.
mhm,
I'm seeing what some of those options are there because I've seen a lot of runners over the years, or you'll see some cross country runners maybe not translate over the track as well because of some of the different
mhm.
types of distances or the different rates. Just seems like she's pretty complete as a runner in
Yes.
terms of being able to just dominate
Yeah,
in
and
whatever she does.
OHSA did a really good interview with her. It's pretty short, but she just gives just a phenomenal, like just team first answer.
Yeah,
It's on their
yeah,
Facebook page, and I might have shared it on Twitter, but just an outstanding
yeah.
career for her. Athens as a team in the girls Division II race finished seventh. Zoe Wayner finished 38th. Adria Corrigan 62nd. Landis Corrigan 76th. And then Unioto's Cameron Walker was in it. She finished 58th. So that was on the girls' side. We'll stay on the girls' side real quick. Fairfield Union finished 12th in Division III, led by Sadie Schultz, who finished 19th. Vera Hinderly finished 29th. Also in that race in Division III, Ironton's Marlena McCown finished 39th. As you mentioned earlier, Adina's Vanessa Conley finished 37th in Division IV. Outstanding career for her. And then like a Szolosi as well, a couple of those. And then Cameron Walker, another senior for sure as well. And then we move on to the boys' side. Team wise, wasn't great, but we had one really big standout. Rock Hills, Nixon Snavely finishes third in the Division IV race. Just outstanding, and you can see why he's getting those big time recruiting.
Yep.
People were really excited about what he's able to put together at Rock Hill. South Webster's Braden Mantell finished 16th. Waterford's Gavin Offenberger finished 22nd. And Southern's Andre Chandler finished 56th. That's all in the Division IV race. So a nice representation
It
from the
is.
Southeast
It is.
there. In the Division II race, Chillicothe finished 15th as a team, led by Jaden Beverly, who finished 27th. An outstanding season for him as well. He's out unbelievable in track. So he's one of those that when you get to a little bit shorter distance in like the 800, he's gonna make a big time
Yep.
impact. So we'll talk about him in the spring for sure. And then also we may have him one of our first basketball things with Ross County Christian. So he's a pretty nice player for them as well. So in the Division III race, Fairfield Union finished seventh as a team. They were led by Connor Ruckle, who finished 18th. Connor Mays finished 43rd for them as well. Unioto finished 13th, and they were led by Caleb Kaplinger, who finished 40th. Man, that was a kid whose career was he started lower on the totem pole on the team, and then by the end, he was the SBC Runner of the Year, showing what just the coaching and hard work more than anything could put together.
No question.
Outstanding career for Caleb Kaplinger. And then in the Division IV race, Rock Hill 23rd, Southern 24th, and we talked about a couple of their runners as well. So, congratulations to all those kids. Get to run at Fortress Obits. Get to see that outstanding crowd. Sounded like it was a great overall day, which it typically is. They run it so well there. It's one of those really special moments. It's a great celebration for that season.
I think that's a good word for it because you get up there and then there's some kids that at that level are still there to compete at the highest level. Others are there to compete against themselves, and it is somewhat of a celebration of like, hey, put myself into this elite field. Maybe I'm not quite ready to run in the top 10, top 20, top 30, top 40, whatever it may be,
Mhm.
but like I want to put myself up against the very best and just see where I stack up. And I think what you find out is, especially if you're a young runner, okay, here's what it takes, and then can I get here next year, and then you get here, and you see some of these kids going for the second and the third time, and how they continue to progress, and that's what makes it really cool.
Yeah, and it's one of those great achievements for those groups, and really, like you said, it's like sometimes you just see where you're at and kind of what you got to do to make a difference in what you can get for the next year. I know there's a lot of people that take like the middle school runners to those events just so they can see a little bit of like what it takes and what they're going to have to do to get to that next level. And I'm really excited to see this next group that comes through and what they can do as well.
Yeah, no question. I'm glad we've been able to get some of those names on here for cross country. I know sometimes, other than a list on Bomb's page or Milesplit or whatever, they don't get a lot of
Mm.
sports people just talking about them. But please understand, we recognize the incredible commitment that takes, especially when you start doing it at that level.
Yes, 100%. So, um, it's been a great week. It's been a great fall. Like we said, we're gonna have one more episode next week. Make sure you follow our live stream on Friday. Will be Columbus East at Unioto. More than likely, we're gonna try to find a place in week 13 to get to one of our teams. And maybe if there's an upset, we can get somewhere that's not like a super drive. But even if there is,
I
we'll
like
get out there.
13, even 14,
Yeah.
depending on, now, as the deeper you get, sometimes you get blocked in terms of some of the media stuff or whatever. But I mean, I think we're a group that, we're in it to cover the kids. So if we can get somewhere, I mean, we'll figure it out. But
Mhm.
yeah, we know this week we won't know what to do with ourselves for 4 or 5 nights.
Oh,
I
I
mean,
know.
we've been Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday
I
here, recording tonight on
I
Sunday.
told you I offered to help go to a practice for a team that I've literally never been to a practice for. I'm like, hey, I'll come.
Yeah,
Like, give me something to do. Like,
you're gonna be bored.
yeah, like I got something to do on Wednesday. I got something to do on Friday.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you
What day
about
does Wheelersburg play? Do I miss that?
Wednesday.
Wednesday?
Wednesday. So we'll have an announcement of where that is. I believe it'll be either Chillicothe, St. Trace, or Logan. Who knows? There's sometimes it goes into some wacky places, but I
Yeah,
know at least a couple of those places have been told, "Hey, we like what you do.
yeah,
Keep that open, and maybe make sure you have workers available." So um, any of those places, I selfishly would like it to stay in the Chillicothe area, but man, Logan does just an outstanding job of running everything there. Keith Myers and his group do an outstanding job, and you can see why the Southeast District wants to go there a lot because
yeah.
it's an outstanding area. Yeah, so Coach's Call-In Show will be on Friday. Think we're gonna have another bad company. We'll see. It's supposed to be tomorrow. We'll see. The Our setup is gonna stay here today because of that. So we'll see if that
All
happens.
right.
I know you've got a super busy week of school this week.
All right. My voice is ready for the break even from Wednesday nights now, but I am excited for the upcoming couple weeks. My wife and I usually make the one trip up to or over to the White State to the state
Mhm.
tournament. So hopefully we'll get to do that next weekend. I know we have some extended coverage, as we said. We had some extended teams. New Lex, I'm excited to follow them.
Mhm.
Bloom Carroll's kind of intriguing.
Yes.
Um, so Newark Catholic, I know they're on up there a little bit, but I know that's a team that a lot of our southeast teams have fallen to over the years in the regional.
Mhm.
They're undefeated. That they're going to
Yeah.
be a tough out. So
Yeah. Should be outstanding volleyball over there. I know New Lexington's going to be at Vandalia Butler, a beautiful campus over there as well. But if you can get over to the Nutter Center,
that's one of the things about the seven divisions now. They'll get the seven championship matches in the Notre Center, but they're going to rotate that, is the way I understand that. So like Adina last year was lucky enough to get
Mhm.
in the right side of that rotation. New Lex, not so much. And again, it's the state tournament. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? It's a beautiful facility, but it's still
one of them,
not the Notre.
one of them means a little bit
Yeah,
more.
just
So
yeah.
yeah. And as someone who did almost all of their underclass or undergrad
That's right.
in the Nutter Center,
Yeah, yeah.
big fan of the Nutter Center, and knowing the entirety
They
of it.
get
You
they
know
get
what?
concessions at the
Hey, you
Notre
know
Center
what?
too, by the way,
If
way
you
ahead
could,
of the volleyball.
if this was COVID, they could just that bottom gym is unbelievable. The McLean gym over there that they play volleyball
Yeah.
in, but you cannot fit. You probably couldn't fit
I was going to
friends
say
and
that's the
your family,
problem.
and
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, if it was COVID, you could because you just don't pull out the bleachers. But yeah, it should be an outstanding tournament over there. Some really elite volleyball in the state of Ohio. So should be fun. Week 12 should be a really fun week. Hopefully the weather cooperates throughout. Wheelersburg on Wednesday with a great opportunity to get through and try to play for a state championship if they can beat
Wow.
Worthington Christian. Would only be the second time ever for a Southeast District team. But if that doesn't happen, it still doesn't take anything away
Yeah,
from what their
yeah,
seniors have done. You mentioned the Wheelersburg volleyball seniors, 12 losses in the 3 years, so over 20 wins each season, so, just outstanding, so, I would say they were probably up around the 90 win mark
yeah.
as well, so,
That's phenomenal.
yeah, so just glancing at it really quick, I was able to gather that, so, um, yeah, you got anything else?
I think that's it. And looking forward to following those teams here. And before you know it, we'll be turning the page to basketball, and that'll be exciting as well.
And, like we talked about, yesterday on the way back from Logan, like, "Oh, this will be a quick episode." It wasn't a quick episode, it was still
Well, I
2
mean,
hours, but
we get talking some sports there, and
yeah, so that's why your voice never gets a rest because
well,
we just go on and on. So
it's not like we shut up when we turn the camera
exactly.
either.
So um yeah, so for Shayne Combs, I'm John Bruce. You've been watching Southern Iowa Sports Network Peace Overtime presented by Perfection. Have a great